Okay, so I'm just going to talk through a little bit about interviews, auditions and portfolios. So not every course at university will involve an interview, audition or portfolio, but certainly some of them will. So if you think that a course that you're likely to be applying for might involve one of these, I'm just going to kind of talk through how the process works, maybe give you a few ideas and some tips and hints as well. Okay, so we'll start. So what are interviews, auditions and portfolios? So obviously you submit your UCAS application. That's your first kind of stage of the application. It's got your contact details, all your qualifications and your personal statement. But sometimes course leaders and admissions tutors also want to see a bit of extra information about you to make sure that you've got the ability and the motivation to succeed on the course. So I guess every university works slightly different. So I'm going to talk generally about how universities work. An interview will usually be with maybe a course leader or a subject tutor from that course, potentially with an admissions tutor. It could be a one-to-one interview, it could be a group interview. It kind of depends on your university. Obviously, you'll get all the information in advance of your interview to kind of know what to expect. Auditions, so some courses ask for auditions, and we'll talk a little bit in a minute about what kind of courses might ask for that. Gives you the opportunity to kind of really show off your skills for a variety of mediums. There could be acting, singing, dancing, music. So kind of another way of showing what you can offer a university. And then some courses, so obviously arts related courses, may ask for a portfolio of work to sort of showcase all the work you've done previously, you know, skills you've learned, skills you've developed, potentially either in person or through an e-portfolio as well. So interviews, auditions and portfolio viewings tend to be the kind of extra things that you might have to do as part of the application process. So where are they used? So you can usually tell if the course is going to ask you for an audition into your portfolio on the university web pages. So when you look on the course description of each course that you're applying for, under entry requirements, it will let you know if you're due to have any of these particular extra processes. It will also let you know on UCAS as well. So there'll be lots of information before you know to let you know what's kind of expected after you've submitted your application. So it's always worth, when you're doing your research, just making sure you know what you'll be having to do. Don't ever let it put you off applying for a course. I think that actually interviews and auditions and portfolios are a really kind of positive experience. So just kind of be aware of it when you're applying for them. So interviews are usually used to complement courses that are kind of people focused, things like nursing, social work. Certainly at Solent, we sometimes interview things about audio engineering and live sound. Teaching courses, you might be looking to do interviews. So kind of courses where it's really important that we can see like your personality and how you might interact with people, how you might work with different people, because that's such an integral part of the course. So if you're applying for things like medicine, veterinary science, dentistry, social work, nursing, teaching, I would pretty much say you're expected to come for an interview. Auditions, so usually for predominantly performance-based courses, maybe not every performance course will audition, but certainly a lot of them will be looking for that. So that could be music, it could be dance, musical theatre, acting and performance, even something like journalism if it's kind of broadcast journalism. So often those are the courses where you'll be looking to have an audition as well. And then portfolios tend to be based around art, design, fashion. It could be something like architecture as well, graphic design, animation. So anything which is kind of skills-based within the arts courses is likely to require a portfolio as well as your application. So I think if you're looking to apply for any of these types of courses, chances are that you will be kind of doing an interview, audition or portfolio. Okay, so when do they happen? Again, it kind of depends a little bit about the university. So you'll usually receive an invitation to interview, audition or portfolio after the January UCAS deadline. The universities will differ perhaps when they run these events. So some actually may invite you in before that, after they've received your application, or some might wait until the 15th of January deadline. So again, it's worth asking these questions at open days, or maybe contacting universities that you're applying for, just to find out when you might hear about whether you're likely to get asked for an interview, audition or portfolio, just because it can vary. Universities will either contact you directly, so they'll write to you at home or send you an email. So it's really important that on your UCAS application all your contact details, etc., are up to date so they can get in touch with you. Or they might invite you via the UCAS application system, the track system. So again, it's really worth checking your UCAS track on a really regular basis after you've submitted your application, just to make sure you're not missing any invitations, because you must attend your interview, audition or portfolio. If you don't come along for any reason, then the university can withdraw your offer. So if you can't make the date, just get in touch with the university and let them know. I always think it's quite good practice, and it's quite a professional thing to confirm your attendance with the university. So just either drop them a quick email, or give them a quick phone call, or reply and track just to say, yep, that's great, I'll be coming along, I look forward to meeting you. I think all of these things are really useful things you do in the job world, so I think they're also really useful things that you will do when applying for university as well. So in terms of preparing for a university interview, although the whole process can sound quite scary, it really isn't meant to be. It's really not meant to be a daunting experience. It's actually a chance for you to almost interview the university a little bit yourself as well, because it's your chance to find out how that university feels, what the staff are like, what the atmosphere is like. And it's really just a chance to show off and be your best, not show off, but be your best self, promote yourself, be a really positive kind of person. Universities are looking for students that are really motivated and enthusiastic. So that's what's really got to come across in your interview. You need to kind of show you've researched the course, you know what you're talking about, and be a kind of a person that teachers are going to want to teach and that other students are going to want to work with on their course as well. So I'd say the best ways to kind of prepare for a university interview, fairly similar to a job interview as well. Get all the information and documents you need in advance. You don't want to be kind of scrabbling together to get that on the morning of your interview, because that just adds to stress. Dress to impress. You don't have to go suited and booted, but I think it's worth making sure that you're dressed in a professional, sort of sensible way, I would say, in terms of how you come across. Get there early. I think there's nothing worse than going to your interview, not knowing where you're going, so maybe plan out your route beforehand. You're already kind of stressed by the time you arrive there. So it's much better to be, far too early. You can get there, have a walk around, get a feel for the university, and kind of calm yourself down before the interview, rather than running in kind of late. I think what universities are really keen to find out for your interview is that you know about the course that you're applying for, you know what you're coming on to do at university. They want to know that you've done your research and that you can demonstrate that you've done that, and you know what the course entails. So before you go to your interview for each university, read through the course descriptions, maybe, read through their prospectus or look on their website and get a real kind of feel for the university, because that will definitely help you when you go for your interview. Also talk about things you've done at college or things that you've done outside of college that are relevant to the course. Talk about your experiences, share your knowledge, and really kind of make sure that you're promoting all the strengths and skills that you have through the interview. It can sometimes feel quite hard to do that. I think, like when writing your application, it can feel quite hard to really kind of be positive about yourself, but this is definitely your opportunity to do that, and back yourself up with examples of things you've done to support your application. Read through your personal statement, because the admissions tutors or the academics will be having a copy of your personal statement, so they might ask you questions about that. So just read through your personal statement before you go. Make sure you kind of remember everything you put in there, and that you're confident and comfortable talking about things that you put in your personal statement. Plan out some answers, and in a minute I'll just talk through some kind of common interview questions. Sometimes it's really good just to get an idea of some of the answers that you might say were you to be asked these questions. It doesn't mean that you have to remember them word for word, but sometimes if you've done a bit of preparation, it can just help you when that question comes out and you suddenly think, oh yes, I remember, I thought about that, and that's the answer I prepared. Chances are with interviews, you'll come out of your interview and think of lots of things that you could have said, but actually if you've done a lot of preparation, then hopefully you'll kind of remember to say those at the time. Talk to people around you and get advice. It sounds a bit naff, but maybe practice with your family or your friends and kind of get the idea about what it feels like to be in an interview as well. Also prepare some questions. So whether it's an interview for a university or actually a job, at the end they'll ask you whether you have any questions, and I think it's always worth having maybe 2 or 3 questions that you can ask, because again it's just demonstrating that you're really keen to know as much as you can about the course. You want to know where it might take you, so you might ask about graduate destinations, so what have their students gone on and done. You might ask about links with employers. You could have kind of 2 or 3 questions lined up to ask them. That just shows that you really have thought ahead and prepared for the interview. And I think, like, relax and enjoy the interview. Our academics and university academics, they really want to make this experience a really positive one for you. It's a chance for them to meet you and get to know you. So it's not a really scary thing. It's hopefully going to be actually a really enjoyable experience. If you can try and stay relaxed and just come across in a positive and friendly way, then I think that you're going to be doing absolutely fine. So I'm not going to talk through all the questions that are on here, but these are generally some of the questions you might get asked in an interview. So obviously talking about your interest in the course, this is bound to be asked because obviously that's the key thing for why they want to find out what you want to do at university and to find out what your motivations and your ambitions are. They may ask about strengths and weaknesses, and again, with weaknesses, it's always worth thinking of something, but also thinking of a way that you might be addressing that. So, sometimes I take on too much, so I've actually worked on prioritizing things, and that's how I'm overcoming this. So that's obviously quite a good way of kind of addressing that. They might ask about things like when you worked as part of a team, when you've shown initiative and leadership, because all of these things are skills you're going to have when you go to university. Managing workload, responsibility. They might ask you about spare time as well, what you do in your spare time. So it's worth thinking of relevant things, a bit like in your personal statement. Don't just mention anything you like doing in spare time, but kind of try and make it relevant. And actually think about what your career progression might be after the course, because they might ask you questions about that. And then at the end, they are likely to ask you about whether you have any questions, and that's where your preparation can come in. So I think if you can look at some of these general interview questions, give a bit of an idea about, prepare a bit of an idea of some answers for these, then you're going to be fine. So interviews, so things like nursing, social work, and again, you'll be given information prior to that, so make sure you read through, because it might be that you have to prepare more specific subject information for your interview as well. So it's always worth just making sure you're reading everything that gets sent to you by university. So I'll move on to auditions. So these are for people that may be doing music, performance, acting, singing, dance, any of those kind of courses. Universities will be really upfront with you. They'll give you plenty of notice about what you need to prepare in advance, and also how the day will happen. Often in universities, the same with interviews actually, and the same with portfolio viewings, will build a bigger day for you. So you might also get the chance to have a tour, get to see maybe even some practical sessions, meet some current students on the course as well. So again, it's another really interesting way of finding out more about the university. So they'll let you know what you need to prepare. Different universities will have different audition requirements, so it's really worth making sure that you read the brief fully and carefully before you go off to your audition. Phone the universities, get in touch with them if there's anything you're unsure of, because they're more than happy to talk to you about it. It could be solo pieces, it could be pre-recorded pieces, it could be virtual. Obviously, in these current times, all of this stuff is happening online, so it could be that you're expected to do a virtual interview, a virtual audition, or maybe an e-portfolio. Ideally, we kind of try and get you to do it on site, because that's probably a better way. It could be group work, it could be monologues, it could be preparing a script or sight reading. So there's lots of different types of auditions that might happen, and you can ask at open days before you apply to universities. You can talk to the academics and find out what they usually set as their audition pieces. They're also not just looking at your performance skills, that's obviously really important, but they also want to look at things like how you work as a team, maybe how you use your initiative, maybe how you show leadership, what your knowledge of the course is. So it's not just about your actual practical skills, but also what you're like as a student and how you might contribute to that course when you get there. Sometimes they may also be followed by a short interview as well, so you might be prepared for that when you go for your audition. So top tips, it's a little bit like an interview, to be honest. Plan ahead, practice, practice, practice is the best way to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident when you get into your audition. So practice in front of people as well, because that's what you'll obviously be doing on the day. Get there early with time to warm up. Obviously, performers need that time to warm up and prepare themselves and get ready to perform. So get there early, time to warm up, and also calm yourself down as well. Try to stay relaxed. It's probably easier said than done, but remember that everyone's in the same position and everyone's feeling nervous, probably even the academics, because they can pick up on your nerves and they're really keen to meet you. So try and stay relaxed and also enthusiastic, and try and keep that enthusiasm going through the whole process. It's tiring and we completely appreciate that, but if you're showing your enthusiasm and your motivation through the whole process, that's going to come across really well. And let your personality show through. We want to find out what you're like. We want to know, what the type of person you are. I think it's really keen for academics that you show interest in the course and you ask questions. And also remember you've got a sympathetic audience. Like with the interviews, they're not trying to catch you out, they're trying to support you through the whole process. So remember that, you know, these people are really trying to, you know, support you through the audition process. They're not trying to catch you out. And just kind of enjoy it, see it as a really good experience. Then moving on to portfolio. So again, these are for more arts-based courses, but it, you know, could be for more technical courses like architecture as well, maybe even engineering if you have to do sort of an engineering portfolio. So a portfolio is a collection of work where you can demonstrate your skills, your techniques and your experiences, and often how these have developed over time. It's great to have these skills, but if you can show how you develop them and how you might develop them in the future, that also looks really good. With your portfolio, you want to show your passion, your range of skills as well. So you might want to focus not just on one type of skill or one type of medium of art, but maybe make it broader. Look at things like your abilities and your motivation. So when we get your application, that's brilliant. We can see your application, we can see your personal statement, but obviously for an arts-based course, we need to see your skills. So that's where a portfolio comes in. Your university will send you out a brief either in the post or via track, and it will really outline exactly what you need to do, whether it's submitted in person, whether you're coming into the university via the post or electronically. So again, there's, you know, you really need to read the brief and work out exactly what it is that the university is looking for. And again, it might also be followed by an interview or like an informal chat. Okay, so just a portfolio to be proud of. So I think, again, make sure you're reading the brief from each university because it will be different. So make sure you're kind of fitting the criteria for each university. And really think about the mediums of art you want to showcase. And you can always talk to your tutors about this as well because they've supported students with putting portfolios together. Ask for examples, ask the universities for examples of what students have submitted in the past. That can really help you. And just make sure that you've got the best work to meet the requirements. They also like to see what influences you have. Obviously, art's really important in terms of, you know, the artists that have influenced you. So that can be in your portfolio. And things they want to see your passion and creativity and your range of talent. But if you want to, you absolutely can include writing that relates to the work and actually demonstrates how you've progressed. You know, to create this portfolio. So there's lots of ways of making sure that you've got the best kind of possible portfolio to show off. Okay, so just quickly, so what happens after? With all of these, I think it's a really important chance to use the experience to help inform your decision, because actually the whole interview, audition, portfolio process really helps with making up your mind about where you want to go to university. So use this experience to help you with that choice. And actually reflect on how it went, because that can really help you for, you know, if you have to go on and do further auditions, interviews and portfolios. So think about what went well, what you've learnt, what you might want to do in the future, and just write these ideas down because you'll kind of benefit from this in the future. Once you've had your audition, portfolio or interview, in time the universities will update track or contact you to let you know what their decision is. You need to keep on top of track, as I mentioned, because once you start given offers and you find out your decisions, once you've got all your offers, you need to then start replying to them. So you need to make sure that you're sticking to deadlines and keeping on top of that, otherwise you maybe get your offer withdrawn. Okay, so just some last top tips. So for interviews, read the interview brief in full, double check the date and the time and where you've got to be, and make sure you leave yourself plenty of time to get there. And just make sure you've done your research about the particular course at that particular university before you go to the interview. For auditions, make sure you read through the audition brief in full, be prepared to answer questions and know, you know, about your piece and how you came together with it, so know the context of your piece, make sure you can ask questions on it. And also ensure the length of the pieces are within the required time limit, so you will be given a set time for your audition, and it's really important that you kind of stick to that as well. And for the portfolio, so read the portfolio brief in full before selecting your work. You might come back to it, put something together, walk away from it, give yourself some time, and then come back to it with a fresh pair of eyes. Demonstrate a variety of skills and also talk about what influences your work as well.